Earlier in this course, we talked about the distinction of infrastructure as a service, IaaS, software as a service, SaaS, platform as a service, PaaS, and the different implementations of those solutions within Azure. Some of these services blend over or bleed from one of these solution areas to another. For example, storage. Let's go through the various storage options we have in Azure and discuss how some of those fulfill a infrastructure as a service or a platform as a service need. So if I click on Create a Resource within Azure Services in my Azure portal, so I'm actually going to click on storage because some of these resources are repeated from databases. And in storage, I will also see my database options. So in here again, we have some storage options that allow us to store different types of data, whether we have structured data or unstructured data, whether we have actual files or if we have images or videos that we want to store, depending on the type of data that we want to store in our Azure subscription, depending on the type of access that we want to provide for that data, we will select a different storage option. For example, Azure Cosmos DB is a type of database which is quite different than an Azure SQL database. An Azure SQL database typically will store structured data or relational structured data, and an Azure Cosmos DB will typically store unstructured data. And the Azure Cosmos DB is a type of database service that we can go ahead and install in our Azure subscription. Now, I also have a storage account. Now, a storage account is sort of an all-encompassing type of resource that allows me to store different types of data in my Azure subscription. It's one of those original resources that have been in Azure since the early days of Azure. And since then, we have seen evolutions of the storage account, and we've seen it grow in functionalities, redundancy, and so on. I will create a storage account in a couple of minutes. Right below, I also have the Azure File Sync, a tool that allows me to synchronize my files from my on-prem solution, my local network, over to Azure, or even synchronize between Azure subscriptions. Data Lake, Azure NetApps, Azure Databox, I can go on and on. There are so many different types of storage solutions that are available inside of Azure, and these are just a small sample. As well, I have some of the Azure storage solutions that are available from third-party vendors that have been published into the marketplace. So let's go ahead and create a storage account. If I click on Create, again, the first option that I need to select is my subscription and my resource group. You'll remember that I created a resource group earlier in this course named RG1. I am now going to have to give a name to my storage account. So I've talked about this before, the fact that some names need to be globally unique, and this is an example of those names. The storage account name needs to be globally unique. Also, it cannot include any uppercase letters, any special characters. It needs to have lowercase, and it needs to have a high level of characters that is between 3 and 24. So I'm going to do a storage account. Once I type in the name of my storage account, a validation will occur that will ensure that the name is globally unique and will then pass the validation stage and allow this storage account to be created. Then down below, I have my region, so it specifies in which region I'll be able to create my storage account. I have additional options here as to whether or not this is a standard or a premium storage account, and this has to do with the performance specifically of that storage account. And there are different parameters in terms of performance for read, performance for write, and how those can be optimized based on the type of storage account that I select. Of course, whenever you have these types of options, you can click on the little eye here that will give you a little bit more information as to what those differences are. And of course, there's cost associated differences as well. Then I've got the redundancy option below. Now the redundancy are the types of replications that will occur for this storage account. Where will this storage account be replicated? Is this a locally redundant storage account, or storage account that is replicated only within a specific set of servers within a data center? A zone redundant storage account, so it's replicated within data centers inside of a zone? Or is it geo-redundant? And geo-redundant comes in two flavors, geo-redundant and geo-zone redundant, which basically means that your storage account is replicated across multiple zones. And of course, you can imagine that there are implications to each one of those options, implications in cost, and also implications in some lag of when those resources become available. So I can now click on Review, which reviews my options for my storage account. And there were other options as well that were available. I didn't go through all of those specific options. And then I click on Create, and the deployment of my storage account is submitted in my subscription. Once the deployment is complete, it will tell me that my resource has been successfully deployed in my organization. I can click on Go to Resource, and then I will be able to edit or modify all of the settings for my particular storage account, settings that go way beyond what I specified during the deployment. Now that we've created our storage account, let's look at all the configuration options and what we can manage for our storage account. So first, when I click on my storage account and I click on the Overview tab, I see all of the properties for my storage account. And this actually is a great new view. What was above here, above the word tags, this has been here since the beginning of Azure. But what you find down below is something that's been recently added to the Azure portal as of the recording of this course. So let's go through some of these, and then I will go through many of the various tab options that are available for the storage account. First of all, we see our location of our storage account. It's in our resource group RG1. It's in the East US location. As well, we see a secondary location, which is West US. Now, this is the first time that we see a secondary location, and that's because our storage account is set to a replication of GRS. So geo-replication is enabled for this storage account, and the second location is the West US. And we'll look at a graphical representation of that in a couple of minutes. As well, I see the subscription that it belongs to, my subscription ID, and then the disks that are being used to store this storage account. The performance is standard. You'll remember that I had a choice of standard or premium when I created the storage account, as well here as a type of storage v2. Now, there is also a storage v1, but you didn't see that as an option because it is not something that we can create anymore in Azure. However, if your Azure subscription has been around for quite some time, you might have created some storage accounts that are storage v1. They have different options and different configuration settings that can be set to them. Today, when you create a new storage account, it defaults to Gen Purpose v2. My provisioning state is succeeded, so it succeeded successfully. And then down below, I have all of my properties. So essentially, if I were to navigate through most of these options on the left, I would be able to get to each one of these options here on the right. It is a single page view for pretty much all of my properties. So for example, here I have something that is called Blob Soft Delete that is set to enable. So if I quickly want to see if soft delete is enabled for this storage account, I can see it right here rather than have to click through the options on the left. I may not remember under which parent option that Blob Soft Delete setting is found. Here I see it in my screen. So it's a very useful view. As well, under monitoring, I can go down and look at the various tools that are being used to monitor my subscription, and I have various tools that I can use. But by default, I also see specific data about the information that is going in and out of my storage account that is also being monitored. So here, for example, I have egress, which is essentially the data that is coming out of my Azure Storage account. And then I have ingress, or the data that is coming in to my storage account. And so that information is monitored. I have also the latency to my storage account and a request breakdown, so basically the client connections. If I want to go into detail on those, I can click on them or use additional monitoring tools. If I keep going through these settings here, I have the capabilities that are enabled for my storage account. So different settings basically that may or may not be configured for my storage account, then together provide capabilities. These capabilities would then be specified here. For example, for data protection, my storage account is only partially configured. However, if it's going to host a website, it needs a Blob service and it needs Blob containers, and it doesn't have any of that right now. As well, it doesn't have any URLs or any additional configurations. Therefore, it is not configured for a static website. As well here, I have recommendations. Now, recommendations would be recommendations that are based on the Azure best practices. And right now, since this storage account doesn't really do much, there are no recommendations to move on. So these are the base settings for my storage account. Now let's go ahead and explore some more advanced configurations for our storage account. First, if I click here on the left, I see that most of these first options are the same options that I see for all resources in Azure. Access control, again, defining who has access to the storage account, the tags allowing me to organize my resources and then search and manage them as a single entity, and then activity log, seeing any changes to my storage account, who made those changes and when. As well, if I go down below, I have a new option that I haven't seen before, which is data migration. Now, as I mentioned before, the storage account will be used to store your data. That data needs to be populated into the storage account. And one of the ways to populate your data is by migrating it from a previous source of storage. So if I click on Browse Data Migration Tools, I see that there's a number of tools that are available to me. And these various links sometimes will guide me to those tools or some learning resources to learn about how to use those tools. AZ Copy is one of those very popular copy tools that allow me to copy my on-prem information, my on-prem data into my storage account. I can do it programmatically also using PowerShell, for example, or the CLI. There are many, many options and tools, some services that are native to Azure, some that are third-party available from the marketplace. As well, if I go down below, I have my storage browser. Now, the storage browser actually gives you sort of a view of each of the various containers that are in your storage account. Now, I've mentioned the word container in passing before, but simply put, the containers are the subsets of resources that exist inside of your storage account. So your actual data is not stored in the storage account. It is stored in a container within the storage account. Those containers come in these four forms. They can either be a blob container, a table, a queue, or a file share. Now, if I clicked on each one of those, I would then be able to see the number of blob containers, the number of blobs that are contained within that container, and the amount total of data that is stored. So different types of data needs a different type of container. Keep in mind that your storage account will most likely be used by an application. Storage accounts typically are used by applications to store data or to retrieve data. Different types of applications will need different types of data. And that's why you may use a blob container for an application that stores and reads blobs, unstructured data, or you may use a queue for an application that requires a queuing service. So depending on the type of functionality of your application and how that application is programmed, you would be needing and configuring different types of containers. And to create the containers, I would go under Data Storage, and I would click on the plus sign to create a blob, or I can create my file shares, my queues, or my tables. Down below, there's a number of more settings for my storage account. For example, here under networking, I've got the specific access to this storage account. Now you notice that the storage account by default is enabled from all networks. So under public network access, it's enabled for all networks, meaning that all networks can access the storage account. They still need to be authenticated and have the ability or the right to access that storage account. But from a network standpoint, they are accessible. Again, if we're using applications, we can have private endpoints or entry points into the storage account that are specified, as well as custom domain names for the storage account. Going down below, I have the various authentication or authorization mechanisms to access my storage account. Using access keys or shared access signatures, again, an application will gain access into the storage account using that information. And you see that you can generate these keys and then copy them and then add them into an application or any resource that requires access into your storage account. Sometimes it's a script. Sometimes the application is just as simple as a script that's compiled or a script itself that's manually created that needs to access your storage account, and then it requires an access key. Same principle for a shared access signature. It's a URI that is being used to provide access to the storage account. And then using the shared access signature, using that URI, you can specify what type of service they can access within your storage account, as well as what type of permissions they can have. Understanding that encryption is native in Azure, essentially your data that is stored in Azure is always encrypted. This is what we reference as data at rest. The data that is stored in Azure is encrypted. This is the default encryption setting for all your blob and files that are stored inside of your storage account. There are additional encryption settings that you can set on top of that to configure encryption for data in transit, or even additional infrastructure encryption setting to add a more complex encryption to your data. As well, down below, we have redundancy. Now, you'll remember that we selected GRS or Geo-Redundant storage for our storage account. And we see here the various data centers that host the data for this storage account. As well, I see that I can modify the type of redundancy for my storage account, but not all options are available. That is because some of these options are only selected for a type of storage account. So based on the fact that I use a standard storage account, I don't have all of the replication options. As well, some replication options just cannot be modified after the storage account has been created. Under data protection, I have this soft delete that I mentioned in a previous video in this course, the fact that this setting is enabled by default. And by the way, all of the settings that I'm showing you in this interface are the default settings for the storage account. Soft delete allow you to recover data that has been deleted, sort of giving you a recycle bin essentially for your data. If I move down below, I have some additional settings here under configuration, and this is where I see my type of storage account. As I mentioned in the previous video, I have a storage v2 storage account, and I selected standard, and you'll note that standard and premium can only be selected once we create the storage account. After you've created your storage account, you can no longer modify this property. I have additional settings here, for example, secure transfer. This is an interesting one because when I first started creating storage accounts in Azure many years ago, this was disabled by default, and now it is enabled by default. What this setting means is basically if you're going to access the data in your storage account, you must use HTTPS. So HTTPS is enabled by default. If I want to disable that and allow HTTP only access, then I can disable that setting. Same thing for public access. You can disable public access, which means that the storage account will only be accessed by those applications that have direct access through private endpoints to the storage account. Again, the public access is allowed by default. And storage account access keys, which we looked at previously, are defined for this storage account. I can disable it, and disables basically that authorization mechanism. So there's a number of options here for the storage account, and you see that there are many more as well. As we go through the various resources in Azure, we will be exploring most of these properties, but what I've covered in this video are some of the most relevant and useful properties for your storage accounts.